Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Hello, boys and ghouls. It's your old pal Sick Part 2 here with my ghouly friend, a ghoul for fun.
And we are here for ghouly gentlemen.
Indeed. And we will do these voices for the entire episode.
Maybe not, because my throat will really kill me. Please help.
Now I'm just stuck like this.
What would you do if for the rest of your life you could only use the Venom voice?
Eat pussy, kill Spider-Man.
Anyway. Yes, today we're continuing Geeky Gentlemen, or Ghouly Gentlemen, I should say, with the horror month. And Alfie has picked a particularly interesting edition. What are we reviewing today, Alfie?
We are reviewing Carnage USA, written by Zeb Wells and drawn by Clayton Crane.
Indeed. So this is something I think you've told me about a number of times. Is this like your go-to Carnage story now, or what?
Not particularly, because a lot of the best Carnage stuff is like the one-shot issues, like in the middle of runs that aren't really like it's like those like random back issues that no one will talk about, but like it's really really cool. Like those are sometimes the best stuff that has like Carnage or Venom in it. It's just the stuff that never gets collected. But this is just one that, I don't know, for some reason just always stuck in my head. It might be because of the art, it might be because of the premise, I don't know. It might have hit me just when I was at the right age or something. Like it was this kind of era of Marvel with like Agent Venom, and we'd just gone past... I think it's like All New, All Different is what the era was called. Like this was kind of when I really got into Marvel in a big way. So this is the thing that kind of stuck out for me in a lot of ways like that. And it's a very short, succinct trade of like you don't need to read anything else to get it, and then it has a beginning, middle, and end, and that's very, very, very hard to find for Marvel. Like the only other Carnage thing that's like that is like Maximum Carnage, which is like a saga. So like that's probably why it stuck around, but it's not like it's particularly something I read very often or anything. It's just it's stuck in my head, and I wanted to talk about Carnage or like symbiotes because, and I think Carnage specifically because I think he's the one comic villain that is so tied to horror and like being a slasher but in a superhero landscape. You get people like Victor Zsasz or other characters like that, but they're always just like, oh, the superhero deals with the slasher. It's never a super villain who is a slasher. Like even the Joker or characters like that, they always have like a greater purpose to them. Carnage is very, very simple. He's just an insane nut job that is given the power of an alien beyond mortal imaginings, and they let him loose. And you can do a lot of really, really cool stuff with that. You can do a lot of boring stuff with that as well, but I think Cletus Cassidy, while being a very simple character, can also be a very good character. And I know it's one you really like the symbiote side of Spider-Man, so I figured it would be one I wanted to talk with you at the very least.
Yeah, and here we are, an episode of Geeky Gentlemen where it's just you and I. How rare. Throwing shade. Yeah, no, it was an interesting read. It's so funny because, like, Marvel in the 90s had just such a, like, sickness for symbiotes. They couldn't make enough of these fucking things. And it's funny to see in this where they have to do the thing where they establish, all right, these symbiotes aren't in it because we don't know where they are. They're like it's too crazy right now. Or they're otherwise. Where's Anti-Venom? Where's Toxin? Where's this one? It's like, Jesus fucking Christ, how many of these things are there? I thought they were only supposed to like produce a child once every like decade or something like that, and yet they're just fucking like rabbits. So it was kind of funny to see that. But then instead of like, okay, so there's no other symbiotes that are going to come into the story, it's like, no. Now here's some new symbiotes that you've never heard of before.
They just can't help themselves, man.
They really can't. It's like, but they're I remember reading a foreword to a Joker story where the guy was like, the writer was like, all right, so you get to write a Batman story. Who are you going to put in it? It's going to be the Joker, right? Like, you have to do that. If you've never done it before, you just need to. But then you kind of got to justify why your version of the Joker matters. And I think, like, there's a similar thing with, like, the symbiote, like, side of the Marvel universe. Like, it's almost its own little pocket continuity at this point. You could... I think you could be a symbiote fan without being a Marvel fan. I think there is enough content at this point. But I think it is just like, oh man, if I'm going to write some of the symbiotes, I gotta make my own. I gotta. Just kind of... I can't begrudge them too much, because, yeah, it does seem like a lot of fun, and it's not that the ones they introduce in this are, like, terrible or anything. I mean... the fucking, like, cyborg symbiote and the like, dog ones. There's some cool, fun ideas in here. It is just, like, kind of... you open up the book kind of expecting that. And then it throws you for a minute because it's going to be, oh, no, see? The symbiotes aren't available. Hey, look, we got more Wait, we found more.
Don't worry, it's almost like the writer... put that at the end to be like, all right, I'm not gonna do it, and then the issue got back to the editors, and they're like, no, no, you're not allowed to do. All right, so it looks like you're gonna have to make some new ones. I was like, wait, no, I don't. Fuck.
Yeah, it's just kind of funny how that works. So outside of that, there's some cool fucking ideas in here. Let me ask you this, because you know more, just like encyclopedic wise about Spider-Man stuff and right. Symbiotes. So the idea that Carnage was able to do all this because Cletus like fed the symbiote just an entire warehouse of meat. Does that like track with pre-established symbiote lore and shit?
Yeah, so like there's this whole thing where like the symbiote and it doesn't help that every time we draw them, especially in the 90s, there's like 1 billion tentacles going in 50,000 directions. But the symbiotes, one of their weaknesses is meant to be like their mass. Like the original way Spider-Man beats Venom, right, is like he makes him use up too much of his webbing, so the symbiote doesn't have enough of itself to generate the webbing, and so it just runs out. That's how Peter beats him in issue 300. And the way to counteract that is by feeding it and fattening it up. And I don't think that's meant to be like a permanent thing. But like it's like one of those things where they can gorge themselves for a time, and then it lets them prep for like a really big amount of exertion. And that's something like Venom's done before with like chocolate. That's something that I think is relevant in like the recent stuff with like the god of the symbiotes. I forget his name, but like all that kind of stuff.
No.
Yeah, thank you. So that kind of idea is something that's been established before.
Okay. I mean, it works pretty well. It's just like surprising because I didn't know they could do that, and it's just kind of a cool lore thing in that moment. So yeah, I was impressed with that. That was a cool premise, and it was pretty cool to see just Cletus being just a fucking bastard and nut job just on the page. You know, that is like the thing that just makes him entertaining, I'd say.
Yeah, his whole thing with Cletus is he's not necessarily gonna make you laugh like the Joker, and I bring the Joker up because like that's obviously the point of comparison. Cletus Cassidy, when he's first introduced, is drawn to look like Brian Bolland Joker without makeup. Like that's very intentional. Like it is clearly meant to. Mark Bagley was clearly be like, all right, this is the Joker for Spider-Man. um, but the thing that sets them apart is the Joker has a grander goal, has a grander purpose, and he can make himself laugh with the day-to-day crying, but like that's all just like part of the act. The real thing that gets the Joker going is always his trump card. Is always that final play. Is always the Joker in the deck, right? Like he's always building up to that one reveal that makes him super happy. Cletus doesn't give a fuck about any of that. All he cares about is the day-to-day, the moment-to-moment atrocities. And he did not necessarily. He's got a sense of humor about it, but it's not necessarily like meant to be funny for the audience. Like in that you feel bad for laughing. It's just meant to be. He's a fucking hick, a lunatic serial killer in the same way that like even Freddy Krueger's got a little bit more showmanship than Carnage. He's just meant to be that kind of Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibe of watching this lunatic do the most atrocious things you've ever seen, and there is that kind of like sick, perverse curiosity about that stuff. Like it is that one, especially when you're younger. Like is that kind of like stuff you pass around the playground and be like, oh. Did you hear that? That's so fucked up. Like that kind of vibe. And I think there is always a place for that. And what I like about that with Spider-Man specifically is he's a character that's so used to deflecting stuff with humor, and yet he works often the best when you put him in some really dark, dire situations, and he just can't handle it because Peter's the superhero character that like freak out. And Carnage is really good for that. Like even Venom has like a moral code. Carnage is when you can get someone who's physically incredibly strong for a supervillain. Like Carnage is always like a heavy hitter, and he's in that good middle range where like Captain America can like land a hit on him, but he can also fight the Thing. Like he's a good mid-range supervillain, which Marvel is very good at having. Like there's a lot of like crossover in the tiers in Marvel, whereas DC. If you're fighting Superman, normally you shouldn't be fighting Nightwing, you know? But there's always obviously going to be exceptions for that, but like there's less of a this character can take a hit from this character, but Marvel seems to be a little bit better at that. At least in terms of again having more mooks and more kind of villains that fit a wider pool. So Carnage, a lot of uses for the character, but I think we can all be honest with ourselves. The reason he's lasted so long, he's just got such a fucking cool design. That's really it. The design for Carnage and Venom just carries it so hard. And the symbiote concept is cool as well, but like the symbiote itself is carried by how cool it makes people when they wear it.
Like I've talked about this a lot, where there's certain characters where like the characters themselves and the lore and everything, that's all fine and cool and respectable, and it's usually pretty good. But so much of it's just about the aesthetic, and it's just immediately cool when you just give that thing to another character. And you see this with like the Green Lantern or just the Lantern Corps rings. Ghost Rider has this. Venom has this. There's like you can keep rattling those off, where it's just like, you know, oh, here's the Kryptonian version of the character. This is not as cool. Here's Batman as Ghost Rider. All right. Let's fucking go, you know? Here's Batman in Kryptonian formal wear. Boring. Here's Batman with a flaming skull. Metal. And I think that's definitely the case, where it's just the symbiotes have just such a fucking cool aesthetic and design to them. And it's funny because Carnage seems like a character created almost out of necessity, because the writing staff for Marvel didn't really want to commit with what to do with Venom. you know? There were the people writing the Spider-Man book were writing Venom as a villain, like another Spider-Man rogue. And then Marvel was, for whatever reason, I don't know if it was people up the chain, I don't know if it was editorial or what, Marvel was really pushing for Venom to be like this anti-hero, and we're still kind of in that weird space where I really don't know what the fuck's going on with Venom. So it seems like Carnage was kind of created as a no, we'll create another one, and it's gonna just be this will be the crazy evil one, this will be the villain one. And I mean, I think that's worked to various degrees, but I can't help but sit here and be like, yeah, but maybe you should have just fucking kept Venom the bad guy, you know? Mm-hmm. It's such a weird little like path of creation for the character. I don't know.
And
I don't know.
The thing with that as well, and we can get, because I think this ties into the comic as well, is what I liked about justifying Carnage over someone like, say, a Punchline, right? As that of a kind of like character meant to fill the villain role of the character we can't use anymore because they're a hero. What I liked about Venom is he's just like, his whole thing is just Spider-Man. Like, that whole lethal protector thing, get out, I don't care. He should just only have beef with Spider-Man specifically, and that's his only goal in life, or I guess their only goal in life, is to make Spider-Man's life miserable and hurt him. Carnage, I like best when, like, sure, out of all the superheroes, he's gonna be like, oh, Spider-Man's my granddaddy, so, like, I'm gonna bug him a little bit more. I don't really give a fuck, and I just want to do my own thing. Like, therefore has to have two very different reactions versus Carnage and Venom. Whereas, like, with Venom, it's like he's almost trying to get other people to help him. Whereas with Carnage, it's like every time anyone else gets involved, Peter has to like, no, fight me, don't fight them, Carnage, like fight me. Like, I think that's a really cool dynamic between the two. And this kind of plays up a little bit as well, where we have Captain America, like when they go to stop Carnage after he's taken this town hostage, he goes to Spider-Man and they assemble the team and stuff, but they're very quickly overwhelmed because they have no experience fighting these symbiotes, especially one on this scale. And Spider-Man's the only like survivor of like the attack. But it's basically just luck, and Carnage doesn't really have that much interest in like, you kind of get the vibe like if he wanted to kill him, he could have. He just doesn't care, and he likes having like someone to play with, and I think that's well done.
Yeah, no, that was interesting. It is. It's funny because you've hyped this book up a lot to me, and like all the scenes you mentioned were like all the fucked up things, you know. So I had this like kind of weird reaction, like, I feel like this book needs more fucked up scenes of Cletus Cassidy just being a bastard and a crazy person. And I was kind of thinking about it, I'm like, no, there's quite a few. I think I just knew all of them were coming, so it kind of felt a little off because of that.
I spoiled the book for you.
Yeah. I don't know, like, part of me kind of wishes, though, that this had maybe been 6 issues instead of 5, and we'd just gotten a whole issue of just the town. I'm trying to think. There's a 24-hour diner. Sandman 24-hour diner. I kind of wish we'd just gotten an issue of that, where it's just a whole issue of what the fuck Carnage is doing in this town. And then, at the end of that should have been issue 2 of the book. You know? Just seeing, or maybe issue 3, just seeing Carnage in his little fucked up world. For 24 pages, and then you go back to like the plot proper, as it were, because as it is, we kind of get like, we get that content, we get scenes of it, but they're like vignettes, you know. You just get like little moments up to and after, and you don't get to see like, you don't get to live in the horror of it, which I think would have just helped like boost the emotions and everything, because a lot of this ends up depending upon the implications of what he's doing. You're not really, and maybe they couldn't have done this because of course 24-hour diner was Vertigo title, so it could get away with a little bit more than maybe something like this was allowed to. But like, just sometimes in horror, seeing the gore does matter, and it does have an effect. It's always a interesting balancing act, dependent on the writer, to get between the, when are you like showing gore, when is it done to increase the effect of the emotional catharsis for the characters, and when is it just becoming gore for gore's sake, you know? And I feel like that's just something that they kind of like leaned back a little too much, and I'm not sure if it's because this is more of like a mainstream comic where they're, you know, with that T rating basically, just out there in the world, and what if it's just like a plot decision that they thought they showed enough.
I think it's probably the little bit of A, a little bit of B, but I think mostly it might just because of Carnage, for all his R-rated debauchery, is still a character that is most popular with young people. And I think Marvel is very distinctly aware of that. So I don't even think that really is like... Because Carnage does a lot of fucked up stuff, but you never really see it in, like, detail.
Yeah.
And that's, like, a general rule for the character going throughout his entire history. Like, you always... They do a lot of the best writers, like, do a really good job of making you feel like you've seen it, but you don't really see it. Because, again, Marvel doesn't have, like, a Black Label initiative. They don't really... The Punisher Max stuff and, like, the Max imprint with Marvel Knights... Carnage wasn't in any of that stuff.
Which feels like a wasted opportunity now that you say that.
Yeah, right? Like, he's not in any of, like, Venom is. But Carnage isn't. So they didn't do anything with him in that stuff. So I think it is just a case of Carnage always has that, like, you think you need to be able to have, like, an R-rated to tell a story with him. But for the most part, we really don't ever do that, and maybe that is why a lot of these stories can have like a really strong premise, but not quite hit the way you want them to, because you don't get to have that true level of violence and horror that someone like Carnage should bring. Like, it feels like you're getting a promise, and you're promised like a really great meal, and like it's good. Like, you really wanted that extra sauce, and
It's like when you watch a horror movie that's been cut for, like, cable broadcast.
Yeah,
you know?
pretty much. Like, always just 2 seconds before the impact, it cuts away.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not that you're changing the story, but you're changing the feelings, because I believe within the context of everything that's presented that, yes, the mother is terrified for her child and is actually willing to kill her husband. And I believe that the husband would actually be willing to die because he agrees with the stakes that they're up against, and this seems like the only plausible thing. Everything in the context of the story itself completely justifies those two characters' reactions to the events. I don't feel it, though. I don't feel it because I haven't spent enough time seeing the evidence. Everything's just implied. Nothing is there for me to, like, gasp at, you know? And that's kind of that. Sometimes you do need that. And it's weird because people will talk about gore as if it is always superfluous. As if you can always tell a story, a horror story, and have it be completely bloodless, and it'll be just as effective, if not more so, than the most gory, blood soaking the camera thing. And that's not true. And I feel like that thought is out there because so much bad horror will, like, overuse gore. The Saw movies are a really good example of that. Where they just turn into torture porn after a certain point. And what little plot there is to make sense of is just not worth the time. It's like anything in a story writing toolkit. everything's a tool, and it just depends on how much you use it. Every ingredient matters, but too much of any one ingredient can kill the meal, you know? And it's a balancing act, and it's very easy, and your mileage, of course, can vary person to person on how much gore is too much gore. Someone that's like really, really easily queasy and easily affected by that kind of stuff, yeah, I'm sure the scenes that we had in this are probably enough for them. But I don't know. For me personally, at least, it just it didn't. There, a lot of those scenes were good, but they didn't quite hit on the same level that I was hoping they would in order to kind of like amp up the story. And then I guess I'm more negative on this book than I thought, because I enjoyed it plenty while reading it. But it's one of those reviews where the more I talk about it, the more negative I'm sounding. Then a lot of the book just ends up feeling like kind of generic, like military Saving Private Ryan kind of movie, where we just end up spending more time with the crew trying to rescue everybody than we do with the town, and with Cletus and stuff.
Yeah, that's my biggest critique as well, is you have this really strong opening where like they send the Avengers in and the Avengers get overwhelmed and Spider-Man's the only one left and it's just that and the town. And like, there's your book, right? Just have Spider-Man on his own have to deal with the situation with the survivors from the town, and then the other half of the book is Cletus fucking with them. And like, have it be the ultimate Spider-Man versus Carnage story, and like the responsibility you have to an entire town, and like Peter kind of putting his money where his mouth is and being like, well, I'm the person who brought the symbiote to Earth, so I still feel guilty for everything Cletus does, because that is technically my fault. All of that stuff I think is really, really solid. And then we kind of just go to these random fucking military bros for too long, and like Spider-Man's barely in there.
Yeah, I know.
And so like that like I don't mind the Venom Flash Thompson at the end, because fuck me, I love Agent Venom. Agent Venom is so fucking sick to me. That's still that like kid brain part of me that's like, Flash Thompson lost his legs in the war but came back home, and now as Spider-Man's biggest fan, he gets the symbiote, and because he doesn't have like that, he still loves Spider-Man like the symbiote does, but he is just all like positive love, and so it like changes the symbiote. That's such a cool idea for like a story, and then having like him being on a time. I love Agent Venom so much. It's the best idea for a Venom host after Eddie. Like, it's the only other one that's ever worked was Flash. But like that as like the last minute reveal coming to help save the day, and like those two characters finally getting to meet, and then they have that whole little fight where like they both lose their symbiotes, and because they both don't have any legs that work, they have to crawl around with fucking knives at each other. That's really cool. I dig all of that.
Can I tell you how fucking funny it was for me to realize that Cletus Cassidy didn't have any legs?
Do you not know how like he lost those?
No, I had no idea. Like, I realized in retrospect, you see a scene earlier where he's clearly got like robot legs. I thought he was just wearing like gray pants and the shading was just kind of weird.
No, so what happened is in New Avengers, and this was so famous at the time for like comic fans. I'm surprised you didn't know.
Is this like what, fucking Sentry ripped him in half?
Yeah, Sentry ripped him in half in New Avengers, and that like Carnage died for like years. Like Carnage was gone for like 6, 7, 8 years at that point. Like they waited a while before bringing him back from that. But then they just kind of Darth Mauled him. Like maybe one, and like it kind of came out at the same time. So like I wonder if I'd watched fucking Rebels and was like, or like fucking Clone Wars and was like, hey, we could just do that to Carnage. So like I wonder if that, because it's very, very similar. So they Darth Mauled Cletus Cassidy, and that's how he came back to life. Is he got like robot legs? He doesn't have those anymore anyway. But like for a time, he had robot legs, which was just so weird.
I just want to take this moment to establish that Marvel is the superior comic company because they're not constantly rebooting stuff. You know, they're not rebooting their universe all the time. You know, their stories matter more because when Carnage gets ripped in half, he stays ripped in half until he comes back with robot legs, and then he just doesn't, and then he comes back and he's normal.
Yeah,
you know, I really appreciate Marvel for their commitment to storytelling.
I just don't
and
know
continuity.
why you'd give Carnage of all people robot legs when he's a fucking symbiote. Like.
Well, okay, so here's my question: Is the robot leg thing? Is that after like the beginning of the Agent Venom stuff?
No, that's way before the Agent Venom stuff. That's like...
Okay, so he gets the robot legs before Agent Venom became a thing. Okay.
This team did a Carnage miniseries that was just called Carnage. It's the same like writer, same artist. And that was like how they brought Cletus like back to life, and he's got the robot legs there. And that happened a couple years before this.
Okay. No, I was just curious if it was before Agent Venom, because I think your answer is just the writers weren't clever enough. The writers weren't clever until Agent Venom came out, and then that writer was more clever.
Yeah, because that's what of Agent Venom. Just like, well, why does he need robot legs? He's got Venom. That's kind of the whole point, right?
I mean, arguably, the robot legs helped him out like a great deal because I swear I've read like one other time I tried reading Agent Venom stuff, and there was the exact same thing where Flash like got rid of lost the symbiote halfway through the fight or something, and then he's just like on the fucking ground, and I'm like, yeah, maybe some fucking robot legs would be a good idea. Maybe putting all your eggs into one basket, not the best fucking plan.
Maybe you might be right, but we can't all be special Darth Maul. It's always the red and black characters, man. It's the red and black characters that got really popular in the late 90s. That these fuckers just can't kill them. They just can't go down. They're just too popular. There's like a special level of popularity for that. It's like the same with Spawn, or like if you hit it big, then you're always gonna kind of have that level of infamy. Even if nowadays I think Carnage just fell off a little bit more. Like mid 2000s, Carnage was the most popular Spider-Man villain. Nowadays, I think most kids don't even know who Carnage is.
I mean, you said they left him dead for like 6-7 years.
Yeah.
That's a really long time in comics.
Yes.
Because I think the only death that's longer than that would probably be Jason Todd. I'm trying to remember. Have we hit the point? I remember having this conversation. Now I can't remember if we found the answer. Have we hit the point where Jason has been alive and the Red Hood for longer than he was dead?
Yeah, I think we have at this point.
Yeah, and we're getting very close to the point where Dick Grayson has been Nightwing, or at least not Robin, for longer than he was Robin. In real world time, at least. But just regardless of all that, you made me think of this, so I'm just going to put this out in the world, and I'm sure it exists on DeviantArt already, but fucking Darth Maul with the Carnage symbiote. Let's go.
Let's go. I'm here for that.
Yeah, it'd be pretty fucking hype. I don't think it would like the lightsaber and the implication of fire very much, but, you know, be pretty fucking cool.
I'd be down for it.
Yeah. Other stuff. So, the Carnage symbiote takes over the whole town and takes over the Avengers. What did you think of the Captain America scene in this?
Which one? Do you want where he like kind of like resists it, or like when he breaks?
Yeah.
I like that. I like that Cap's got that like Superman level, like just pure willpower to like break through anything. Like I think that's fun, and I think that's a good showcase for him. Specifically against something like the symbiote. I think it's a shame that in this we do this with Carnage a lot because his symbiote's a little bit different, but like I do think part of the appeal for what makes Venom work so well is having that of a personality, even if it's only communicated through like suggestion. In this we don't really get to see Carnage. We get to see a lot of Cletus, but we don't get to like Carnage itself doesn't really do anything. And that's always kind of the case for Carnage. Like he always calls himself I, he doesn't call himself we, because he basically just got a baby symbiote, has always been my kind of logic for it. So like doesn't have a will of its own yet, whereas like the symbiote that Peter and Eddie got was like a mature, like adult symbiote. At this point, though, it's had so many fucking babies. That's got to be a very. It's got to have some kind of maturity at this point. It's been around for so long. But like, I do wish we did a little bit more of like, what does Captain America with the symbiote like look like inside his head? Same with like Wolverine or like the Thing. Like I think you picked an interesting lineup of characters to do stuff with. Like I like Wolverine here because Wolverine's the only one who's kind of got the whole like most people's opinion of like why you should fucking kill him. Just take him out. Like he is one of the worst monsters on Earth. And like some of your other villains, you can see the reason with, but Carnage is like that man is doing nothing but this. He's never going to change. I think having him there and giving him a symbiote could give you some interesting drama. They don't really do anything with that. And I also kind of bum like the artist chooses to effectively just give them pointy teeth and color them red. They don't get like unique designs or anything. And I think that's a shame. Like I would have liked to see like Carnage the Thing with like an actual like design instead of just like spiky teeth.
Yeah, especially with the rock thing, that could have been the whole rock texture and stuff. That could have been cool. Wolverine also, yeah, could have been a fun one. Again, it's just that thing with the symbiote aesthetic. Just character A is cool. Can we make him cooler? Let's put a fucking symbiote on him. Let's go. It's just fucking hype, you know. And there's quite a bit of art of Darth Maul with the symbiote, or Darth Maul with Carnage stuff. Well, not with Carnage specifically, just Darth Maul with the symbiote. I still kind of wish there were more. It's not. I've seen stuff that's pretty cool, but it's not as cool as the image in my head, you know.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff with this as well. It's just like, the execution of these ideas, because I think the premise is super solid. Like it's that like, that's what I kept telling you about. It's like, oh, Ian, this is such a cool idea for like a Carnage story. It's just like Carnage like fucks over town. Like, it's really really good. And there are really good moments. And again, to give it some praises, I like the stuff in the church a lot. I wish that was longer, but like Cletus going around for concessions and stuff, but it's asking for people to pull their own teeth out. And I forgot this was in it, but like the little line he says, like, no, you have to do your own. You can't get someone to do it for you. Like, oh, that's so fucked.
That's pretty good. I like the I just like the fact that you see like Carnage possessing a baby in this. That was I kind of wanted more of that, where it's just like the real fucked up stuff, you know? With the it's coming out of the drains. He's upstairs giving the baby a bath. No, he just fucking like runs upstairs, and you just see the like the horror of it all. I'm like, okay, that's the moments that were really hitting for me. You know, those are the like I wanted more of that because that shit was great. And then the fact that it's just like, you know, the Avengers come to town and Carnage just everyone big smiles. And he's just fucking holding the baby and stuff. He's got all the power in that moment. It's good. It's got that like this son of a bitch kind of feel to it. It's just, you know, there's if you were to like percentage out this story, that is a very disappointingly low percentage of the story, unfortunately. And I don't know, I kind of wanted just more of that, just more stuff like it, you know. It was so cool when we got it, and everything else, you know, he tried. I will say, like, I wasn't a fan of like the military bro stuff, but it was at least an attempt to be a little bit more than that trope, you know. Like the way that they have them all have symbiotes is interesting. The different gimmicks they give the different symbiotes is kind of cool. What did you think of the like cyborg symbiote?
I think that's a neat idea, because I like the idea of like treating the symbiotes as living beings, so it bonded in a way where it was so young that it couldn't tell the difference between flesh and technology. So now you can just bond with that. I think that's really interesting because we do that a lot with like in real life. You'll have like imprinting or on like baby animals where if they spend enough time around other animals, they think they are that animal because they don't know any better. I think that's always really fascinating in nature. So doing that with a symbiote and like there's that infamous panel that the Venom movie kind of reference where like the symbiote can actually like hack into the internet. Like in the 90s, there was a whole thing of like that perfect era where no one knew what the internet really was, so people would just write like fights within the internet, and like you could enter the ether there, and it's always yellow with like the technological line. Like, Batman Beyond did an episode like that as well. You can like fight inside the internet. That's really cute. There's an issue where like Carnage does that in the 90s Venom book, where like he like uses a symbiote to go inside the internet. So that is established that they can manipulate technology, I guess. So I don't know if this writer recognized that, but Zeb Wells is a pretty big Spider-Man fan, so maybe he did. But like the idea of making that just a symbiote is one of the better ideas for if you're going to make a bajillion of these guys anyway. They're never going away because they're always going to be someone's favorite. So you might as well just like, all right, let's at least make a couple of them really cool at least. So I think she's cool. But again, not the story, I think, for that character, you know? Like, you'd want that to be its own separate, like, kind of introduction thing. The premise for this is it just kills me, man, because it's just such a good idea that I want to, like, I want to do a Carnage USA rewrite where it is just a Black Label Spider-Man story. You can have the Avengers intro in, but, like, it's mostly just Peter. In this fucking hell town, and like you said, like the Sandman 24-hour Dino vibes, but across 6 issues. Like that should be like the best fucking thing ever. But it just comes out as like, oh, that was okay, and then the more you talk about it, you're more just like, oh man, that was kind of generic.
Yeah, no, it's unfortunate because again, they do cool stuff, but like the fact that we. You know, when you talk about comics and it's 5 issues, 24 to 22 to 24 pages a piece, you do the math on that. And your story is, you know, let's see, 125 pages or less. Every page, every panel really starts to matter. And the fact that we spend like, what, a good 3, 4, 5 pages introducing the generic military team and giving them all like a moment to try to make them cool. It's not really worth it. Like when you get to the end of it, none of them are like the key to success here. You know, even the tech symbiote, it's a cool idea, all she really does is just ram them into the slaughterhouse again. You know, like she doesn't really affect change in the story in a way that like it had to be her. You know, you could have had like the Thing break from control and like throw him effectively if you wanted to. Like there's a million other ways to get these characters in that fucking slaughterhouse, you know? It just feels so unnecessary, and like I guess technically it's more complicated than that because she baits the trap and like separates them from the symbiotes and stuff. But I'm so fucking used to that in Spider-Man stories at this point that like fucking everybody can do that. Like a kid with a boombox and like a disconnected wire that makes it go a little screechy could fucking disconnect someone from a symbiote at this point.
Right.
Compared to what it used to be of like, it's a permanent bond. If the symbiote comes off, both of them will die. And now it's just like, I got some weird feedback when I answered my cell phone while I was listening to some music.
No! Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It really do be that way. Hey, people are outside looking at my pumpkins. Yay. Sorry, distracted.
You're all good.
Yeah, but it's just I don't know. It's just it happens so much now, that like just kind of yeah, here we go. But like seriously, none of them really affect much in this story. None of them really like do anything of severe consequence. I'm not going to go so far as to say they're like useless characters or they had no point. It's just, were they worth the amount of time dedicated to them? What did they add to the story? And I mean, furthermore, like, you fucking introduced four of them. You should have given Carnage at least one kill on him. You know? Like, the one guy's literally got his symbiote as a dog. Like, if anyone should die.
Yeah.
It just feels like so, and now there's just fucking more of them running around and stuff. And it's like, it makes them feel just that little less special. The more symbiotes you introduce, the less special they all feel. At least for me. I don't know. I might be alone in that. Maybe there's someone out there who's like, give me more symbiotes. Alfie, how many symbiotes are there? How many, like, named symbiote characters are there?
There's gotta be at least like, if it's gotta be around 20, I think, at this point. It's at least in that range, because you got
Venom, Carnage, Scream,
Toxin,
fucking Toxin,
Hybrid, Symbiote.
the four introduced in this, so you got four more. The whatever their fucking names are.
Fucking
Null.
yeah, Lasher, Agony, Phage, Riot.
Yeah, there's so fucking many of these things.
They're just coming down. They're just coming down. And then there's like the whole planet of the symbiote. There's one called Rays. There's one called fucking. No, I guess Hybrid's that one. Scion is the thing. Dylan Bra, okay. Well, Agent Venom's the same. Anti-Venom doesn't really count, but we might as well throw him on there. Silence. Fucking... Who the fuck is Silence? Jesus Christ. Sleeper. Venom's got another fucking kid called Sleeper? Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, so there's definitely... At minimum, there's over a dozen. I'm going with at there's at least 20. But there's probably, like, it's in between 10 and 20, I think.
Yeah, and that's so many fucking things. It's just too many. There's too many symbiotes, and it's not something where it's like, oh, well, there can be as many as we want. I'm like, yeah, I mean, technically lore-wise, but, you know, just when you saw the shit like Peter did with the Venom one in the original run, and just everything Venom was able to do, and everything Carnage was able to do, there's just too fucking many of these. Like, this is a problem.
You know what they need to do? They need to make the sequel to that Blade panel where he's like, help me with the vampires, where it's fucking Spider-Man, and he's like, help me with the symbiotes, there's so many of them. And then you're like, no.
Legitimately.
Spider-Man has now become almost as much of a, like, why are there so many of these fuckers as Blade with vampires? That's incredible. I never realized that.
It's so funny.
Because no one else does shit. Like, the Avengers came down here and they just got taken over instantly. And, like, Spider-Man's like, dude, all of this started, all of it. Every piece of death and carnage throughout the years of this history, because Peter's costume got a little bit ripped, and when he went to repair it, he went in the wrong fucking room. Can you imagine how much problem would have been solved if he had just gone into the right, like, fucking clothing machine repair pod instead of being a fucking jackass? Like, we talk about how unlucky Spider-Man is, but this is, like, a true level of, like, wow, the universe hates you.
Yeah, he fucked up hard, man. He fucked up super hard. It's legitimately impressive.
Like, the Uncle Ben thing is kind of fucking peanuts next to this thing, man. Like, I'm sorry
Yeah.
about your uncle and everything, dude, but like, you brought us an infestation of aliens.
Yeah. I don't know, it's kind of weird though, with as many of them exist, that they haven't really tried to branch them out to other characters. You
Yeah.
know, like
Mhm.
it's kind of weird that like every fucking there that Thor doesn't have a symbiote villain. You know, like
Well,
he kind of should.
it kind of did for Null. Is kind of a Thor villain as well.
All right, that undercut my point with a really good example. Thank you, Alfie. It's
Sorry.
kind of weird that fucking Daredevil doesn't have his own symbiote villain, you know?
Yeah.
Like he kind of should at this point, or who else? Fucking Punisher could have a symbiote villain. That would be a good one, honestly, is to pair Punisher up with a symbiote, because
He'll keep the
you could
host. Yeah.
yeah, he could keep killing the host, but the thing can always keep coming back with just a new fucking host, you know? Like that's the Punisher's problem with like villains, right? It's just it doesn't really make sense for Punisher to have recurring villains, because if anyone's gonna fucking kill his villains, it's gonna be Punisher. So giving him like, you know, something that's a little more out there could probably help the character out a little bit. I don't know. It's a whole fucking debacle.
I guess, yeah, Punisher probably is a good pick for that. Fuck, I'm trying to think of who else would be a cool.
Moon Knight. Moon Knight could take on a symbiote.
There was a really good issue of Immortal Hulk where Hulk got the symbiote on him, and like Bruce Banner in his mindscape just like sat him down and was like, "All right, you're new here. This is how the multiple personalities things work." And, like the Venom symbiote was like, this is weird. I don't like this." It's freaking me out. Like it was a really good panel. But a symbiote villain versus the Hulk, I think, could be interesting, because the symbiote has that whole thing, right, of like it boosts the host up depending on how strong the host is. The Hulk's whole thing is like the angrier he gets, the stronger he gets. Like the symbiote kind of has a similar deal. So there's probably something there. And it's all that, again, that whole abused lover thing versus that abused parents thing, and it's like childlike metaphor. So if you made like a younger symbiote with the Hulk, it could probably be you could probably get a good story about this. So there's a lot of ways to do this than just putting them on poor Spider-Man. But the majority is they're not even for Spider-Man. It's just we do the same thing we do with a lot of these like characters we don't know how to make rogues galleries for, where we just make a bunch of the same thing. So it's just Venom villains. We never make Venom villains that are like not symbiotes. All Venom fights is Spider-Man and symbiotes.
That's really annoying.
That's why
I
all
don't
his
like
fucking
it.
movies, like that for the third Venom movie, like, oh, maybe we'll use Null. It's like, how about y'all not use a symbiote for 3 times in a row, huh? How about we like have an original idea for Venom to fight if you're not gonna make him fight Spider-Man? Maybe this is why it doesn't work, because all you do is have him fight other symbiotes.
Mm-hmm. We are going to die, Eddie. Oh shit, it's a red one.
I did like that.
Yeah, no, it's, like as much as I don't like those movies, there are just those couple scenes where I'm like, yeah, it's pretty fucking good. Anyway, I don't know. I feel bad because this is very loosely been a review of the story. Because unfortunately it's just one of those things where I don't really want to keep just ragging on it, but the more I talk about it, the less interested I am. And it just makes me think of other shit and want to fucking rant about my anti-symbiote agenda to Marvel. I guess let's do this as like a fun little wrap up thing, and we'll go on to like a score for the book itself. If you were to create a symbiote, what's your pitch? What's your gimmick? What's its name? What's your symbiote OC?
Man, I wish I had like 5-year-old Alfie here right now. He would have been all over this with like the best pitch ever, and I've like completely forgot all of them. I don't know, man. I guess I don't know about a name, but I'd like a symbiote that was a little bit more. because we do the science thing, we do the sci-fi thing. I'd like a symbiote that was a little bit more. Oh, okay, yeah, I've got it. This is actually fucking sick. This is actually such a killer premise, Ian. You're gonna love this. It's the ghost of a symbiote that possesses people.
Okay, that's pretty fucking cool. Like a Doctor Strange symbiote villain. Let's
Yeah,
go.
there you go. It's like it's like the hive mind where all dead symbiotes become one with, and like it like Exorcist style possesses people, and you can call it fucking haunting or something like that. Like just and it's the whole premise is like it's like pure terror and like the screams of agony. It's like ancient and it's like
And
fucking.
you can call it terror.
Yeah, and it fights Doctor Strange and shit. And it's like he fight and like Spider-Man starts having nightmares and it's like it's found you, Peter. It's coming for you. And you're not prepared. It's like what do you mean it's coming for you? It's like you fought something like it before, but this is what gives symbiotes nightmares. This is his fucking thing. It's like, oh god, like okay, that's actually pretty cool. I'm copyrighted that. That's really good. That's a really good idea.
The ghost symbiote.
It's the ghost of a symbiote, because they still possess you, but differently.
Yeah, no, it's pretty fucking hype. It's funny because I was kind of like leaning toward, just so much fucking blending them with like a magic user because that's just like a cool fucking premise. So yeah, fucking, I'd kind of go down a similar path. Is do something with symbiote and magic and like I'd like to play with the color scheme and really go to like a sickly green because Venom usually gets. Venom for like his highlight color usually gets your blues or your purples. Carnage obviously black and red, and then they've kind of branded them all out in different ways. You got like your teals and your yellows and stuff for each of them. But I don't think I've seen like a symbiote that's got like a sickly kind of like neon like radioactive green kind of thing. Like you remember Blight from Batman Beyond?
Right.
I'm kind of imagining that like balance of color and stuff where it's just this like glowy green, and I'd go with just some kind of fucking magic user ability. Like it could just be like a symbiote that just bonded, or a symbiote that's got like a history with magic users or something, and it's always like seeking out the next best magic user it can get its hands on. And I'd be like, because everyone would be like, oh, so it's gonna go to like Doctor Doom or someone. I'm like, no. It's seeking them out, and it wants to like like that classic wizard or sorcerer dilemma of it wants to live forever. It wants to extend its life. So it's seeking out people that not that like are great magic users, but people with the greatest potential to be magic users. So it's just seeking out like people that you've never heard of that haven't like tapped into their abilities yet or anything. So not necessarily like a kid, but like someone, younger kind of thing. Create an OC host for it to be latching onto and really just going to I don't want to be doing this, please don't hurt me. So like when the fucking whoever ends up having to fight him like goes to punch, the symbiote could just like fucking open up and you just hitting the host and the fucking moral dilemma of that shit. Meanwhile, it's like casting spells and shit at you.
That's gonna be it, using the multiple like arms and shit to start weaving like the hand signs that Doctor Strange does, but with the tentacles.
Yeah, really cool. Yeah. It'd be so fucking trying to think of like a cool magic pun.
I think Doctor Strange for the name legitimately is the move to go for this because he's also a Steve Ditko creator. Like I think
That's true.
I think there's that connection there. There's that. Ditko didn't have anything to do with the symbiotes. I would have been very curious to see what his thoughts were on them, but they've got that. I think there always needs to be that kind of Spidey-ness DNA in them because they're that very like creep factor in all the design.
Yeah, and Spidey's got that like horror roots that Ditko was famous for.
So I think if you're gonna know another one, Strange is the move to go for.
Yeah. So I'd probably go with that. I'm trying to think of a good name for it with like some kind of name that like evokes magic as well as cursed. Oh, that's fucking good. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, we're doing it. Welcome
this whole episode,
Geeky Gentlemen, where we've touched the sickest symbiote ideas you've ever heard.
Well, it's just so funny. This whole fucking episode, we're like, man, there's too many symbiotes. They need to be stopped. No more symbiotes. Then we're like, all right, this is a really fucking cool idea for a symbiote.
What, man? I apologize to Zeb Wells. I apologize to every creator at Marvel who has ever. This is really fun. I see what you do it. Because there's so many of them already, right? What is you might as well just make one at this point. Like every writer who works at Marvel Comics should make their own symbiote, and if you haven't already, please do so. It's really fun.
It's just like part of your fucking like contract to sign on at Marvel is like, all right, here's the benefits. You get dental, healthcare. This is the salary. You get to create your own symbiote and put it in a comic. Like, that's a benefit. That just feels like it'd be part of the job. No, trust me. Go ahead and do it. Think on it. Don't. You only get the one, so don't blow your load too quickly. Really think on it, because sometimes people like think, oh, okay, whatever, I'll just write one, and then they're really disappointed. It's fucking like this guy Zeb Wells sitting over here with his fucking dog symbiote. What?
This fucking dog symbiote. God.
Yeah, I kind of put the cart before the horse on that one.
Oh man, it's okay. I'm sure he's the current Amazing Spider-Man writer, so maybe he'll get another shot.
Yeah. Fucking brings back dog symbiote.
If the dog symbiote comes back in this run, I will apologize to all the mean things I've said about it.
I'm sorry. I'm not gonna apologize. I think the dog symbiote is interesting for like half a second and then kind of falls off pretty hard for me.
Like, I just respect the commitment to the bit, you know? just being like, this is mine, and I'm gonna fucking go all out. Yes, it's kind of shitty, but fuck it, it's my shitty dog symbiote, and I'm gonna sell him, like have him fucking beat Galactus or some shit. Just really put this dog symbiote over as long as you've got the chance. Because the symbiote Conjure figures, that's gonna be paying for your retirement fund. You're gonna get residuals on those fuckers for eternity, because they're always gonna pop up and shit. So maybe it is why they should make more symbiotes. That's how we can get comic creators to be paid fairly. Everyone make a symbiote and get paid residuals every time they show up.
Fucking Terror and Cursed. I like this. These are the things. I need someone to make fucking fan art of Terror and Cursed of what you guys think they'd be. What's Cursed's or what's Terror's color scheme?
I think it should be like transparent white, like very, or maybe like a silver, like something like it should just like look kind of like, you know, generic Poltergeist, but with fucking Venom's face, and like just kind of wispy and like you can't quite, like, you know, those like horror, not even real life, you know, real life ghost pictures where you take a picture of a ghost and it's kind of like blurry and grainy and you can't quite make out what it is, like that, but Venom. I think would be pretty cool. And that should be the issue 1 cover, right? Oh, this is so fucking sick. So the issue 1 cover, right, is Peter Parker's camera, and in the photo lens, it's the fucking poltergeist. It's like that's so cool.
The whole
sick, man. I want to write this whole run.
The fact that just it's so funny where it's like, here on Geeky Gentlemen, we are absolute fucking hypocrites.
Absolutely. Without a doubt. Never claim to the contrary.
I feel like the distinction here is like, you need to have the pitch. I feel like the problem necessarily isn't like too many symbiotes, because even Null is pretty fucking cool when you like get down to it. I feel the problem is the fact that it's just too many of them, and like none of them are nearly as cool to like justify their own existence, right? Because like that's the thing with the two we pitch is like they fill a niche. They're unique. They're interesting just in the function that they would have in story. Whereas like so many of these guys are fucking interchangeable. Particularly with like the crew in this, right? Like all 4 of them are the exact same character, except for the one guy who's got a dog. it's a little distressing. Toxin. Toxin is literally just the exact problem with Venom. So it's like we have this problem with Venom where editorial or whatever just decides, no, we're gonna have Eddie Brock be like an anti-hero. Well, that's not quite working out. So let's make Toxin. He's a cop that gets a symbiote. To fill the niche of the lethal protector.
That was a real, and I don't want to get this go long, but that was a really funny period in Marvel where it's just to fully fulfill your point of how pointless these fucking things were, is when Flash Thompson had Venom, people really wanted to use Eddie Brock as a villain again, but they couldn't get rid of Venom from Flash. So you know who they gave Eddie as his symbiote so he could be a villain again?
Who?
Toxin.
Yeah.
So they just drew Venom again, like how it was in the 90s, but he's red, and Eddie Brock wears him now.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That sounds about right. That sounds completely pointless. Because Toxin's just gone all over the place. I remember the fucking Toxin book I read. The art looked so sick, and it was just like generic ass story about cop with Venom symbiote. And it's like, why? Yep. Oh, that looks bad. I don't like it. They tried, and it's that thing of like there is genuine art and talent behind this, and this is like a cool homage cover and stuff. But like, that sucks. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Like, maybe if you'd flipped it and just done, like, the red symbol, because that's basically what null is, right? But, that looks a little better.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit. Because they're not just doing the straight Venom look. The fact that it's, like, changed, like, shape and everything. Sorry, no one can see what we're talking about, and I'm entirely too lazy to put this shit up on screen.
Just Google Venom versus Toxin and you'll see.
Carnage, Darth Maul, and Venom versus Toxin.
So
Alfie's supposed to be editing tonight and said he's gonna fucking draw his terror Venom symbiote.
It's just too good. You tell me if it was bad, but it slaps. Yours slaps too. We're just too good, Ian.
We can't help it. We're too amazing.
Took us 2 minutes. Imagine if they paid us to write fucking comics. We'd fucking... it'd be so good. Now I'm angry. Now I am terror.
I'm sorry. Okay.
It's alright. Thank you all for listening. I'm glad if everyone listens, just know if I see a fucking ghostly ass symbiote pop up on DeviantArt, I'm gonna know where you fucking got the idea from, and I'm gonna call you. I'm gonna make sure I slit your fucking throat.
Alfie, quit threatening people for their DeviantArt posts.
Do it.
Alrighty. What do we want to give a rating for Carnage USA? One last thing about the book itself. Fucking loved the covers. Covers were brilliant.
Covers are so good. They're the best part of the book.
Yeah. Absolutely every cover is something where you would just see it on the stands and buy it just for the cover, and I love that. Anyway, what would you rate Carnage USA?
0 out of 5, no ghost symbiote. I'll give this a 2 out of 5. Originally, I think I'd give a 3 out of 5, but I think you lose a lot for me when you make a premise this killer, and then you kind of throw it away so no one else can use it now. So, and again...
Well, don't worry. Maybe in the MCU, 10 years down the line.
Maybe, but then maybe they'll find a way to... Ian, you want to talk about shoehorn cameos? They'll fucking... These guys would truly... If we get the post-credit scene and it's the fucking Venom dog, that's when the MCU truly needs to end. That's the gulp shit out of Marvel, if I've ever known him.
The Venom Dog! Oh my god, it's my favorite character!
And you get the fucking comments, where's the Venom Dog gonna be? Everyone's like huge fans. Get the comics explained. Who is the Venom Dog? Secret origin. man. Alright, but no, this book again, it's got really nice art. It's got a really nice premise. It's got some really killer moments, but it just doesn't live up to what you want from it. I remembered it. The moments that stuck out were what I remembered about it, and so that's why I like recommended and enjoyed it. And again, it's not bad. It's just, like every symbiote related story, you could be so much more, so much more.
Yeah, no, I mean, you've heard me talk about the fucking, like, the Venom story I want, and it's never gonna fucking happen. And it's too bad, because it's a good story. But, yeah, I don't know what it is. Symbiote's absolute highest tier visual, absolute bottom tier writing, constantly. And it's sad. Always start off strong, and then just fizzle out for me. So I'm gonna give this. I think I'm right there with you. I'm gonna give it 2 out of 5 slaughterhouses filled with symbiote goo on the floor. Because yeah, really strong premise, couple really good moments, but just a lot of poor decisions along the way that just make it feel a lot less than the sum of its parts, you know? So that's kind of where I'm at with this one. Okay. Well, I'm stuck with the next one falls to me. Let's see here. This episode's coming out on the 16th, so the next one will be the 23rd. Yeah, we still got time. Well, I guess I'm probably just gonna... Well, no, because I want to do the discussion topic that'll get posted on the 31st, so just gonna warn you, when we record on the 25th, that's probably gonna be, we're gonna have to pump out 2 episodes, which shouldn't be too difficult, because one would be a review, one would be discussion. But for next week's episode, not talking about 3 or 4 weeks down the line, next week's episode, we're going to review Predator 2, because we talked about it, we talked around it a lot when we were talking about Prey, and I know Steve watched it and liked it, and I just want to fucking rewatch Predator 2. So, yeah, we're gonna talk about Predator 2.
Alright.
Yeah. But until next time, everyone, thank you very much for watching. I'm the Philosopher.
And
I'm a ghoul for fun.
And we are your ghouly gentlemen. And we will be discussing things.
Ha 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 ha!